Are you trying to decide which is a better option for you? Should you choose to buy your own home first, or should you choose to rent and instead buy investment properties first? Or perhaps you're trying to advise your children on what is better for them financially. Well, if you're in this position, then this is the video for you. Hi, I'm Nero Thambi-Pillay from Investment Rise, and I really want to look at today the numbers behind which is the better option for you financially. So let's get to it. Option one, let's say, is you're going to buy your own home. Okay, so let's just say you're going to buy a home. The price is going to be $700,000. Okay, now in Sydney for a house, it's really at the lower end, so it's a very conservative figure, but let's start with that. And let's say you've got $100,000 saved up for a deposit. So let's go, deposit is $100,000. Okay, let's just ignore the additional costs like stamp duty and legals for both these scenarios, just to make the example really as simple and as straightforward as we can. So if we have a deposit of $100,000 for a price point of $700,000, that means your mortgage is going to be $600,000. Now, I know at the moment interest rates are at record lows, but when you're taking out a mortgage, you're taking it out for 25, generally these days, even 30 years. And so what we need to do when we're looking at your numbers is to look at what's the average long-term interest rate. And in Australia, that's 7%. So let's look at what happens at 7%. So it's 7% interest rate, 7%, okay? Now, that means your repayments, it's going to be 7% of $600,000 per annum, which is $42,000 in interest. Plus you've got the principal to pay as well, because you need to keep paying off your loan. So that's going to be about $10,000. So let's go with $10,000 as your principal. So that's going to be P. So that means literally in that first year, all you're going to do is pay off $10,000 of your home loan. And then you're going to have like your rates and your insurances and everything else. So again, let's be pretty conservative on that and just say that's about $3,000. Okay, and I'm just going to go miscellaneous here. So that's rates, as I said, insurances, etc. Which means to own your own home will cost you $42,000 plus 10 plus 3, which is $55,000 per annum. Okay, at these interest rates. Now, let's say what happens on the other side if you would choose to rent the same property. So you get to still live in the same area. That's what we're talking about. You live in the same area that you want to live in, or you're going to live in anyway, but now you're going to invest. So at the moment, a $700,000 property in Sydney, depending on where, rent's going to be around about $600 per week. Okay? So per annum, that works out to be $31,200. All right? So that's what it costs you to now rent the same property that you were going to buy. Okay, so now look at this. The moment you're renting versus buying in this scenario, look how much you're saving in cash flow every year. That is $23,800 per annum that you're saving. And mind, that's after tax dollars. Okay, so you've got to earn your money, then you pay tax, and then on what's left is what goes towards your rent or your mortgage. So here you can see you're saving nearly $24,000 or $2,000 a month. That's what you're saving. Now, the question then becomes, okay, Nero, I get that, but isn't rent dead money? I mean, I'm getting capital growth over here when I buy my own home, aren't I? All right, well now look at that. Remember, you've got $100,000 sitting here that you put towards a deposit, because that was your savings in this situation, which you can now use. Now, let's take that $100,000 and split it up. So $100,000, let's split that up into two lots of $50,000. Okay, so you're now going to use that for deposits. All right. Now, using $50,000, again, because we're ignoring the on costs and everything else from both situations, to be fair, you could use that to buy a $500,000 property. All right, so you can have one $500,000 property here, and another one over here. All right, now, even if you buy badly, all right, so even if you don't buy an A grade property, but even if you just buy, say, a B grade kind of property, so being very, very conservative, at that price point, you could get a property that after all costs and everything else, you're only out of pocket about $100 per week. So cost equals $100 per week and times 2, because you've got 2 properties now, so it's $200 per week. Okay? Now, that's pretty conservative. I wouldn't call that a great property on the numbers. But again, I just want to be as conservative as we can here. $200 per week. Let's times that to make that per annum. So annually, $200 times 52 is $10,000, $10,400. Okay. Now, let's add then this $10,400. That's now the cost for you to have your 2 investment properties plus your rent. So your total cost now is $10,400 plus $31,200, which is $41,600 per annum. Okay, now look at the difference. You've been able to rent where you were going to live anyway. You've now bought 2 investment properties, and you're still, and it's now costing you $41,600 versus $55,000. So you're ahead $13,400 ahead. That's just on cash flow per year. Okay, so imagine, so that now goes towards savings for you to get ahead that much faster financially. But now, let's look at capital growth. Now let's assume again, just to really bump up this scenario here. Let's just say that you invest in an area that has the same capital growth as the area you were going to live in. Okay, let's just say again, keep the numbers easy. Capital growth is going to be 10% and 10%. Okay, so to be fair. So on your home, you have your price after 1 year, after 1 year, year 1, it's going to be $700,000 plus 10%, which is going to be $770,000. Okay, so you've made a gain of $70,000. Yeah. Okay. So look, that seems pretty good. But now look at it over here. Remember, you bought 2 $500,000 property worth of properties. So therefore, you actually have $1 million now in total worth of property. Yeah. So let's look at what happens here at year 1. We have 1 million plus 10% is going to be $1,100,000, which means you make a financial gain of $100,000 versus just 70. So let's now look at it again. By investing in property of your capital growth, through capital growth, you've made $100,000 versus 70. So therefore, you're ahead by $30,000. Okay? And on your cash flow, you were $13,400 ahead. So therefore, literally by renting rather than buying, okay, you are ahead $30,000 plus 30, you're ahead $43,400 per year. Now, in 2 years, that becomes over $80,000. There's your deposit for property number 3. So you can see now, and if I seem passionate about it, it's because once you understand numbers, you can then choose to make an informed decision as to what it is you want to achieve. Right? You can see right now that renting, yes, I know this is a general scenario and it's not tailored for any particular individual, but it gives you a good example of what can happen if you rent first and rent in the same area, so you're still living in the same area, all right, and then invest strategically. You can get ahead financially so much faster, and that's really what it comes down to, is the emotional decision. Do I want my own home now? Or am I willing to perhaps maybe sacrifice a bit and rent and then do what's going to get me ahead financially? Remember, in both these situations, you're earning the same money. So it's not as if you're working any harder, but you're going to invest first and then sure, come back and buy your own home. That's fine. We're not saying you're not. In fact, we all want to buy our own home, but you're going to do it maybe in 5-7 years time when you've got a number of properties, got a large property portfolio, cash in the bank, and you can buy a property, your own home, with a far smaller mortgage. That's what the decision is going to be. Are you going to make the emotional decision now, or are you going to do what's right for you financially? Hope you enjoyed this video. If you've got any questions or comments, please let me know below. Thanks. Bye for now.